let's talk about encoding your live stream. Oftentimes we spend a lot of time on the front end getting everything to look and sound its best, but then we neglect to really think through how we're going to deliver the live stream. So in this video, I want to dive into around 7 different encoding options that I've used, investigated, and talked to you about the pros and cons to figure out for yourself which encoding option is the best for your church. Before we jump in, I do want to let you know that this video is not sponsored by any of these companies or softwares, but it is sponsored by me and my new course, Next Level Live Streaming on a Budget. Check it out. This week only, it's on sale for $50 off, and I think it's a wise investment if you're looking to level up your church's live stream. But let's talk about encoders. So I figured we'd go in order of budget. So let's start with the free options that are out there. Yes, you can encode your live stream and deliver it for free. And one of the easiest ways to do that for many of us is with our ATEMs. And recently I put up a poll. Around 400 of you responded, and of those, 37% of you said that you're currently using either an ATEM or a web presenter hardware encoding option. And personally, I think this is a great place to start. I've been really surprised how many of our churches have an ATEM Extreme, an ATEM Mini Pro that you're using for your live stream switching, but you're not using it for encoding. And if that's you, I would encourage you to look into just pushing that on-air button on your ATEM. So to me, the biggest benefits of the ATEM encoding is just the ease of use, especially if you're using it as a video switcher already. It does have Ethernet connection, and you can attach your phone via USB-C to have your hotspot as a backup. You can't use those simultaneously, and you cannot use Wi-Fi. So there is only one connection at a time for your encoding options. But you can do some higher bit rates. You can choose between the various low streaming, middle streaming, high streaming options. And I would say high streaming is a good place to start. That's around 8,000 megabytes per second. Now, the way that this works is you're going to set your destination in the ATEM software. And that is one downside, is that you can technically only do one destination. So YouTube, Facebook, you're sending out an RTMP feed to one of those places. When you hit on air, it's going to send it off to that one destination. What we've done for years is use a service like Restream, and that will take that stream and then send it on to multiple destinations. I'm not really going to talk about Restream as an encoding option because it's not how you encode your live stream. Technically you could, but it is a good extra piece to the puzzle if you want to add multiple destinations without investing in a higher end encoder. One mistake that I've seen many times is people have an ATEM Mini Pro or Extreme that has hardware encoding available, but they're using the USB-C out as a webcam into another piece of software, and that's the only thing they're doing is like connecting that to OBS. One thing I'd caution you on is that output does add a little bit of contrast and change the image quality just a little bit, and so that's just something to be aware of, and then you're using an extra computer to do that. So if you don't need to add something else to the mix in a software like Lyrics, you might explore hardware encoding over the ATEM. Next on the list of free options when it comes to encoding is a software like OBS. OBS is a software that you can run on Mac or Windows, and it's used by gamers and lots of people. One thing that makes this not technically free is that you do have to have some type of input device into your computer, and you have to have a computer. So with hardware encoders, you don't need a computer. They're standalone. With a software type thing like OBS, you're going to have some type of computer that can handle ingesting the video, and a card like a Camlink video capture card or something from Blackmagic like the Ultra Studio mini monitor that can input an SDI feed to get that image into OBS. So it's not technically free, but there is no cost to stream from OBS. And staying in the software realm, there are so many different options out there that you can check out. I've tried a few different ones. If you're on Windows, vMix seems to be a really well-respected not too hard on the budget option. I think for around $60 a year, you can get into vMix. On Mac-based options, there's Ecamm, and there's obviously a few other software options that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. The biggest benefit of the software to me is the ease of being able to add in like NDI feeds or lyric overlays, graphics on top of your live stream. If maybe you have a smaller video switcher that you don't have enough inputs to do that, that is a benefit of the software. And you can stream to multiple destinations if your internet bandwidth allows. Okay, let's talk about the hardware encoder that we have been using for years, recently switched away from, but it was faithful for us for many, many years, and that is the Web Presenter from Blackmagic. We use the Web Presenter HD, which is still available, I believe, but I'd probably go for the 4K version. They're not that big of a price difference, $515 for the Web Presenter, $675 for the 4K version. It has inputs and outputs that are friendly if you're coming out of a different ATEM. It has a great display output that shows you kind of like the status of your live stream with a nice preview. It can also do the phone backup, internet hotspot ability, just like you can on your ATEM. It's basically like the hardware encoding that are built into the ATEM Mini Extremes and Pros, but in a standalone box. So if you're an SDI house, you can bring that into this really easily, and it just works really well. You hit on air, it's going to send out to that single RTMP destination once again, just like the ATEM encoding. So who's a Web Presenter 4K HD for? If you have like a ATEM Constellation, an ATEM Studio HD, any of these SDI switchers from Blackmagic that don't have built-in encoding or recording, then this is a great option to kind of work in that workflow. One software that a lot of people are using is ProPresenter to encode their live streams. So for around $29 a month currently with the new subscription model, you can get into having a ProPresenter machine that can do the same thing like OBS or one of these other software-based encoding options does, but with the benefit of using ProPresenter like we know it and being able to add things in there. And the integration with Resi, I hear from people, is a nice touch, being able to have that resilient streaming. Resi is going to be another cost on top of ProPresenter, but you can use ProPresenter to encode straight to YouTube or something like that if you wanted to go that route. Personally, for me, unless I'm using the campus license, I'm probably not going to invest in just ProPresenter for only encoding. Some people have found success in having one machine that can do encoding and presenting. I don't like that because if one thing fails, both things fail. And for the $29 a month, I think that if all you're doing is throwing some extra lyrics in there, I'm not sure that it's worth it. So Pro 7 is a viable option for sure when it comes to encoding. Well, for the last couple of months, we have actually been streaming with BOXCAST. BOXCAST is a solid performer when it comes to the church live streaming market, and they've got some great encoding options now. We've been using their Spark SDI model, and man, it's been rock solid. One thing that's different about BOXCAST and some other companies is you purchase the encoder that is native for their platform, and then you do have a month-to-month cost. That cost is to help pay for a lot of the features that you're going to get with BOXCAST. So the beginning plan with BOXCAST is only $39. If you don't need 60p, which I don't believe we do, then that's all you're going to have to pay. Some of the great things about encoding through BOXCAST is that they have this thing called Flowcast where you can add up to like 2 minutes of delay onto your live stream. So for us, we were having a lot of internet issues. We didn't have fiber yet, and enabling Flowcast allowed us to stop having buffering and caching issues that we were having on our Web Presenter HD. The Spark has some pretty sweet tech in it, like it's doing HEVC encoding, H.265, some things in the back end that you probably aren't worried about, but that can actually enhance your stream quality while using less data. So the Spark encoder comes in a couple different flavors, SDI or HDMI, and it's got some little options that I didn't realize I would love so much having, like headphone output that is actually in real time. The ATEMs don't do that. It has onboard recording to a micro SD card, which is awesome because now I don't have to have a separate device like a hyperdeck to record our live stream as well. You can have separate audio inputs. We're using the SDI embedded audio. The touch screen works really great. All the data and information that it shows and being able to walk you through getting your live stream set up. I've really enjoyed using the Spark. And for that $39 a month to start out with, that does get you scheduling, right? Scheduling's huge. This blew me away because it's not something we ever did. Now, every week, our live stream just starts automatically. I don't have to remember to hit a button or do a companion thing. It just starts. And then you just end it when it's time to end in the BOXCAST software. It just works really well. The support from BOXCAST, being able to call somebody and talk to them is really, really nice. And I think if you're a church that needs a little bit more robust system, dependability when it comes to your live stream, I think BOXCAST is a really good option. The only thing I don't like about BOXCAST right now is the chat integration. So with Restream, we have the ability to be able to send and receive messages simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube in one window. So I can have our chat host chatting with both parties on one window. BOXCAST, we can't do that. And so you can chat on the native player that is built in that you can embed on your website, another bonus, but you cannot chat into YouTube and Facebook through that. So you kind of have to have those windows open separately. Not the end of the world, but hopefully in the future that's something that gets improved. Link in the description if you want to check out BOXCAST. Another unique encoding option box that's out there is the Yolobox series. You have the Yolobox Mini, the Yolobox Pro, the Yolobox Ultra. I've tried the Pro and the Ultra, tested them extensively, did some streaming with them, and they're a unique little box. The Yolobox is odd. It's like this big touch screen that you can put multiple camera inputs into it. It's made to be like a video switcher, but also encoder, kind of like an ATEM, but with a touch screen. I didn't love it for that. But I could see maybe the Yolobox Mini being a good option for churches looking to do that final step of encoding their live stream. It gives options like Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and SIM card, and you can also bond those together for an extra cost month to month. But having that Wi-Fi on there is an extra nice peace of mind. It has battery backup enabled, like it has a battery on it. So if you lose power, you're not going to lose that. It's not going to reset. It can do vertical streaming if that's something your church wants to try. We tried it on Instagram. I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever, but it's cool that the Yolobox gives you that option where none of these others currently do. I did seem to have some issues with the stream quality, maybe a buffer here and there. Again, we've had some internet issues in the past. It is a little wonky as far as like where the inputs and outputs go, and there's not really a great way to get your lyrics overlays and graphics overlays into it because I don't think there's a Luma key. There's just chroma keying options currently. But it's a very unique device. And if you're a mobile church on the go, setting up in a school, things like that, this might be a good option to look into for your encoding. Last on the list is a heavy hitter, Resi. I've not used Resi, but I've visited with many people about Resi. I've attended their webinar about Resi. And for us at our church, Resi at this point is still too expensive for the budget that we have to dedicate to our live stream encoding. Their lowest tier is $99 a month, and it's going to be either $700 or $1,300 for the hardware piece that is required in order to be able to use Resi, unless you're using ProPresenter 7. That's the caveat. It seems like if you're multi-site, like it's a no-brainer to go with Resi. They have encoding and decoding options that can go on both ends of that stream. They've got their resilient streaming protocol, RSP, that similar to Flowcast, it sounds like it maybe adds a delay to it and then make sure there's no packet loss or things happening there if your internet does seem to slow down. You can stream to multiple destinations, and the user reviews really seem to be pretty glowing from most of the people that I talk to. Some things to consider with Resi is that while BOXCAST does HEVC and H.265, both of their encoders for Resi are still just H.264, which I don't know that that's that big a deal, but it's just something to consider. The price for sure is something to note as you look into their plans. Some people have suggested that since they were acquired by PushPay, that we might be worried about what's going to happen with Resi and their pricing model and different things. But that's been some time ago, and I haven't heard too much pushback in recent months. So I think if you're a church that is multi-site, Resi seems to be like the default way to go about doing live stream encoding, especially between a broadcast location to satellite campuses. Some honorable mentions that you might want to look into if you want to dive deep into this is the AJA Hilo, the Epiphan Pearl Nano, the Magewell Director Mini, and then, of course, things like Ecamm, Restream, StreamYard, other software-based options that are out there as well. So I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, hit the like button for me. Remember to check out that course that I've just launched, Next Level Live Streaming on a Budget, link in the description. And remember, guys, we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.